Hello everyone, my name is Scott Spatz. I am the president of Cooperative Systems. We are a local IT service provider. For our clients, we do outsourced managed IT services in the greater Hartford, greater Springfield, and greater Boston areas. And being that we're a tech company, I wanted to take the time to go over some tech tips, some things we thought would be helpful as we approach the upcoming holiday season, both that would help you professionally and personally. So just some things to think about. We're always looking for ways that technology can allow people's lives to be a little better, a little more efficient, and certainly safer in today's risks, the risks that we see with the cybersecurity threats and things going on out there today. So I wanted to just go over some of those things today, and we'll go from there. So one of the first things that we wanted to talk about was use of email and use of calendar. So email, everybody takes time off around the holiday season, and one of the easiest things you can do to be communicative to your colleagues and to your family is do an out-of-office message. And just about every email system out there today has an out-of-office platform that you can turn on, allow it to auto-respond to your emails that says, hey, I'm out of the office, don't expect a response from me right away, I'll be back on whichever date. And it's just a way of using a communication tool to make people aware of kind of what you're up to and to be transparent about the expectation on response to emails. And then another thing kind of related to that is your calendar. So many of our email platforms today that we use for calendaring as well also allow us to share our calendars with others in our office. And if you have that type of platform, it's always best to keep your calendar up to date, share it with those that you're working with on a daily basis so that they can understand whether you're tied up, whether you're available, and scheduling appointments around our busy time of year will make that process much more efficient if you can have visibility into the people's calendars that you're working with on a regular basis. So those are a couple of email calendar things. Next, cybersecurity. So I mentioned, we wanted to do this just to provide some tips around just safe use of our computer systems and online transactions and things around the holiday season, because as you know, everybody's doing a lot of online transactions around Black Friday and then going into the holiday season. So a couple things here is number one, when you're making online transactions, when you're doing credit card transactions, purchasing things online, avoid doing those transactions over public Wi-Fi. Always best to do those things at home, or if you're allowed to, do them in the office. Or if you need to do them out in the public, use your hotspot on your cell phone if you have that service enabled on your cell phone, because that's a private connection. Only your computer is connecting to that. And what you want to avoid in those public hotspot and those public Wi-Fi areas is the chance or the potential for someone scanning those networks and compromising and getting access to your credit card information when you're making those online transactions. So that's one thing to look for. Next thing is when you're browsing the internet, certainly making any online transactions, pay attention to the URL that you're connecting to, the website address that you're connecting to in your browser. A lot of times we can be duped. We can click on things that we didn't really pay attention to. Always think before you click on links. Always make sure you're spelling a website address properly before you hit the enter key or hit the button to go to that website. There's a lot of malicious sites out there that you can be directed to via either bad links or phishing emails. You may get an email that has a link in it. And always take a look at that link and make sure it's a valid link, and hover your mouse over that link and see where it's going to bring you before you click on it. So a couple things just to be aware of, and just safe web browsing in general. And then I mentioned about online transactions. When you're purchasing things online, always best to use a credit card and not a debit card. Debit cards, as you know, debit your bank account immediately, and credit cards have a lot better protection for you for any malicious or any false transactions that may happen if your account number did get compromised. So if a transaction shows up on your credit card, you can dispute that charge with the credit card company and you don't have to pay that transaction fee. Whereas if it's a debit card, those funds have been debited from your account. Now you're out those funds until that transaction dispute has been settled. And when it's a credit card, you don't have to pay those funds, and the credit card company will deal with the dispute for you. So always best to use credit cards and not debit cards when you're doing online transactions. And then just keep an eye on your credit card statement and your debit card statement for that matter. But again, you shouldn't be using that for online transactions. But always keep an eye on your statement. You should always have access online to your statements. Keep an eye on them, if not daily, but every week, just to make sure there's nothing malicious showing up there that you have to backtrack on and you can be a little more proactive about. And then when you're accessing any online platforms and any online stores to make purchases, or really any online activities you're doing, password management and password complexity is a good best practice and safe practice to use. So always make sure you're using what's called complex passwords. Passwords that have characters, uppercase, lowercase, numbers all built into them. Don't use simple passwords like the word password or your name. Those are the worst practices to have when setting up credentials to log into all the different things that you need to in your day-to-day life. And to make that simpler, use a password manager. There's plenty of password managers available out there that you can subscribe to that allow you to put all of your passwords into a secure vault. And then you can have access to that on your computer, you can have access to it on your mobile phone, but it keeps all of your passwords stored in a secure vault. And then it allows you to use complex passwords because it's storing it for you. You don't have to remember all those complex passwords. So you can use any random string of characters and numbers and letters and numbers in your password, and then the password manager is storing it for you, so you don't have to remember all those. It'll allow you to look it up and plug it into the website when you need to get there. And then also any online platforms that you do log into and sign into, a lot of them nowadays are offering what's called multi-factor authentication. And if the service does offer that, I would recommend you use it. And multi-factor authentication is just another layer of authentication. After you type in or enter your password, it'll send you a text message, or it'll ask you to type in a changing token. And it's just another level of authentication, making sure it's really you logging into that online account. So those are a few cybersecurity things that we wanted to go over. And the next thing is, as we're approaching, again, the holiday season, but also the winter season around here, is the ability to work remotely and have access and collaboration tools when you're outside of the office. So whenever there's a bad weather event, maybe we have to leave the office early, maybe there's a bad weather event pending for the next day where it would be more efficient for people to work remotely rather than dangerous travel into your office or wherever it is you work from. Always look for ways you and your staff can work remotely in a productive fashion. So there's a number of collaboration tools out there, like chat tools, things like Microsoft Teams that can allow you to have a repository to put documents in to save in a cloud-based platform to then be able to access from outside of your office and have people access those same documents to be able to collaborate on and be productive with. So, and then also remote access into your own network. So if you're not using cloud-based services, there's ways to enable remote access into your existing network you have in your office in a secure fashion. Obviously, security is the key thing here, is making sure that you're not just opening a remote access, but you're doing it diligently and with security in mind. So same kind of thing, is if you're going to open up remote access, we always recommend to have multi-factor authentication on that as well as something called virtual private network, or VPN, which a lot of people have heard of. So securing that connection with a couple different layers of security is always important. But then allowing, having those features available for your staff to be able to stay productive and be able to be getting their work done when they're outside of the office and during those weather events. So those are just a few things that we wanted to go over today that we hope could keep you safe and keep you productive in this crazy hectic season we have upon us. And we'll look forward to catching up next time.